July 27, 1909. Flight confirmed. Orville Wright successfully piloted the U.S. Army's first airplane, marking a critical moment in American military and aviation history. The flight took place at Fort Myer, Virginia, where the Wright brothers had been demonstrating their aircraft to the U.S. Army Signal Corps as part of a formal evaluation process. The objective was to satisfy the requirements of a military specification issued on December 23, 1907, which sought a heavier-than-air flying machine capable of carrying 2 people, sustaining speeds of at least 40 miles per hour, and remaining airborne for at least 1 hour. Orville Wright's flight on July 27 lasted 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 40 seconds. This demonstration was not only the longest flight of the trials, but also the most crucial in securing a military contract. The airplane used, known as the Wright Military Flyer, was a heavily modified version of the 1905 Wright Flyer III. It featured dual propellers, a forward elevator, rear rudder, and could accommodate a pilot and passenger. For the July 27 flight, Orville carried Lieutenant Frank P. Lahm as a passenger, a requirement stated in the Army's conditions for acceptance. The 1909 trials were the second attempt by the Wright brothers to demonstrate their aircraft to the U.S. government. In September 1908, during an earlier demonstration at the same location, Orville crashed after a propeller blade broke mid-flight. The crash killed Lieutenant Thomas Selfridge, making him the first person to die in a powered airplane accident and seriously injured Orville. Despite this tragedy, the Army remained interested in the Wright brothers' machine due to its demonstrated potential. Following recovery from his injuries, Orville returned in 1909 with a new flyer that had undergone structural improvements. The success of the July 27 flight demonstrated the aircraft's stability, endurance, and capability to meet military specifications. The performance was closely monitored by Army officials, civilians, and members of the press. The flight covered approximately 50 miles in circular laps over the Fort Myer parade ground, repeatedly proving the aircraft's sustained flight capacity. On August 2, 1909, just days after the successful trial flight, the U.S. Army formally accepted the Wright Military Flyer. It was designated Signal Corps No. 1 and became the first airplane in U.S. military inventory. The contract included a payment of $25,000 plus a $5,000 bonus for exceeding the required speed. The acquisition marked the official birth of American military aviation, as the U.S. Army Signal Corps' Aeronautical Division would soon begin pilot training and further experiments with aerial reconnaissance. The Wright brothers' success at Fort Myer helped cement their position as leaders in early aviation. It also demonstrated the U.S. government's commitment to incorporating aerial technology into its military strategy, even at a time when aircraft were still largely viewed as experimental devices. The Fort Myer flight became a model for future procurement processes that involved public demonstrations of technological capability before official adoption. The 1909 flight was also noteworthy because it occurred just 6 years after the Wright brothers' first powered flight at Kitty Hawk in 1903. The rapid advancement from a brief 12-second flight to a controlled, passenger-carrying demonstration lasting over an hour illustrated the swift development of aviation technology during this period. It represented a transition from experimental flights to practical applications. Orville Wright's performance on July 27 demonstrated that controlled, sustained, and useful flight was not only possible but also operationally viable for military purposes. This laid the foundation for the expansion of air power in the 20th century. The event preceded the formation of dedicated military aviation units and contributed to the establishment of the U.S. Army Air Service during World War I, which later evolved into the United States Air Force. The significance of the 1909 flight goes beyond military adoption. It showed the American public that flight had practical value and that the United States was at the forefront of this emerging field. The successful demonstration at Fort Myer became a milestone in the integration of technology, industry, and national defense, reinforcing the role of innovation in U.S. historical progress. For enthusiasts of historical ephemera, visit history-collectors.com to find collectibles that might complement your collection. You can own a piece of history.